Replace worry with the action. 85 point is replace worry with the action. Don't worry, or rather, don't just worry. Let worry change into action. When you find yourself worrying about something, ask yourself the actions question. What can I do about this right now? What can I do about this right now? And then do something, anything, any small thing. Most of my life, I spent my time asking myself the wrong question every time I worried. I asked myself, what should I be feeling about this? I finally discovered that I was much happier when I started asking instead, what can I do about this? I started asking instead, what can I do about this? If I am worried about the conversation I had with my wife last night and how unfair I might have been to say the things I said, I can ask myself, what can I do about that right now? What can I do about that right now? By putting this question into the action area, a lot of possibilities will occur to me. First, I could send her a flower. Or second, I could call her to tell her I was concerned about how I left the things. Or third, I could leave a nice little note somewhere for her. Or four, I could see her to make things right. I could go to see her to make things right. All of these possibilities are actions, and when I act on something, the worries goes away. All of these possibilities are actions, and when I act on something, the worries goes away. We often hear the phrase worry it to death, but that phrase doesn't reflect what really happens when we worry. It would be great if we could worry something to death. When it dies, we could dispose of the body and be done with it. But when we worry, we don't worry things to death, we worry it to life. Our worrying makes the problem grow, and most of the time, we worry it into the grotesque kind of life, a kind of Frankenstein's monster that frightens us beyond all the reason. Our worrying makes the problem gross, and most of the time we worry it into the grotesque kind of life, a kind of Frankenstein's monster that frighten us beyond all the reason. I once came up with a system for action that helped turn my worrying habits completely around. I would list the five things that I was worried about. Perhaps there were four projects at work, and the fifth was my son's trouble he was having with a certain teacher. I would then decide to spend 5 minutes on each problem, doing something, anything. By deciding this, I knew I was committing myself to 25 minutes of activity, no more. So I so it didn't feel at all overwhelming. So it didn't feel at all overwhelming. Then I could make a game of it. Then I could make a game of it. On project 1, a seminar workbook deadline for a new course, I would spend 5 minutes writing it. Maybe I only got the first two pages done, but it felt great. It felt like I would finally started it. Then on item number 2, a meeting I knew I had to have with the client or the sticky contract issue, I would call his office and schedule a meeting and put it in my calendar. That too felt good. My third worry, a stack of correspondence I needed to answer. A stack of correspondence I needed to answer. I would take 5 minutes sorting and stacking and putting them into a folder that was separate from other clutter of my desk. That was separate from the other clutter of my desk. That felt satisfying too. That felt satisfying too. The fourth item was a travel management that I had to work it out. I would take no more than 5 minutes looking at my calendar and leaving a voicemail for my travel agent to fax me some alternatives on the trip. Finally, on the matter of my son, I would pull out a piece of paper and write a short letter to his teacher expressing my concern for him, expressing my concern for him, my support for her efforts, my support of her efforts, and my desire to arrange a meeting quickly so all three of us could sit together and make some agreement. All of that took 25 minutes, and the 5 minutes that were worrying me the most, and the five things that were worrying me the most were no longer worrying me. I could then go back any time later and work them to completion. If something is worrying you, always do something about it. It doesn't have to be the big things that will make it disappear. It can be any small thing, but the positive effect it will be have on you will be enormous. It can be a small thing, but the positive effect it will have on you will be enormous. A friend of mine was worried about her cat, which had some mild symptoms of illness, but nothing that looked severe enough to take the cat to veterinarian. She also thought the symptoms were so subtle that they might not be easy to describe to the vet, but still she worried. She brought the subject up two or three more times before I finally said to her, "You must do something." She brought the subject up two or three more times before I finally said to her, "You must do something." That's the problem. There's nothing to do, she said. She said, "Take some kind of action," I said. "Call the vet and talk to him." That doesn't make sense because the vet wouldn't know anything from what I told him. And he would probably ask me to take her in to see him. And I know it's not that serious, she said. Yes, I understand, I said, but you should take the action for you, not for the cat or the vet. By not doing anything, you are keeping yourself trapped in worrying. Okay, she said, I see what you mean. When she called the vet, to her surprise, the vet was able to make the good assessment of what was wrong. He recommended that she bring the cat in, and if it was what he thought it was, he could give her something to clear it up right away. He recommended that she bring the cat in, and if it was what he thought it was, he could give something to clear it up right away. Anything that worries you should be acted on. Anything that worries you should be acted on, not just thought about. Don't be scared about the action. You can make it very small and easy as long as you take an action. Even small action will chase away your fears. Fear has a hard time to coexisting with the action. When there is the action, there is no fear, and when there is the fear, there is the no action. Next time you are worried about something, ask yourself, what small thing can I do right now? then do it. Remember not to ask, what could I possibly do to make these whole things go away? That question doesn't get you into the action at all. Acting on your worries frees you up for other things. It removes fear and uncertainty from your life and puts you back into the control of creating what you want. Just do it. Thank you.